fastest teams to practice today, Kyle.
Casey Kane, we congratulate him, his third career pole.
It's all three Hendrick Motorsports in the front.
There's a few movers and shakers out there.
Carl Edwards free falling for a couple of victory lane is Joey Logano.
Get the inside line on who's fast and who's last before setting your NASCAR fantasy race team lineup this weekend. This is the Inside Line on MRN.com. Presented by Hercules Tires. Now, here are your fantasy experts, Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
Win number 3 for Kurt Busch at the Pocono Raceway comes, surprisingly, Robbie Mays, without his crew chief, Tony Gibson. What a story at the Tricky Triangle. Besides, we need a giant bubble over the track. That's probably the number 1 story. But number 2 story was Johnny Klossmeyer, the head engineer for Kurt Busch, taking him to victory lane on fuel mileage.
I'm going to need the world's largest umbrella and a whole bunch of ShamWows to Pocono Raceway.
Wow.
Yeah, that was, as the race progressed on Monday afternoon, you kind of started to think, all right, who's gonna pull away and who's going to get this thing in? I really thought that last restart that Dale Earnhardt Jr. might be able to hold off Kurt Busch because Dale Jr.'s won at Pocono twice, so it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for him to do it again. But as that thing went along, it seemed more and more like Kurt Busch was going to have enough fuel to be able to make it to the end of the race, and I didn't remember that Tony Gibson wasn't on the pit box. I had forgotten. I knew as the weekend began that he wasn't there, but then as the race went on, I kind of got caught up with everything that was going on, and I forgot Tony Gibson wasn't there. So congratulations to the 41 bunch. They're in the chase. So good times for those guys.
That's Robbie Mays. This is Tyler Burnett, and we're talking fantasy racing as we do each and every week for 30 minutes ahead of practice coming up here at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. One of the biggest surprises for me this weekend was Joe Gibbs Racing. Matt Kenseth finishing 7th, Carl Edwards finishing 8th. Those were the only 2 cars in the top 10. No cars in the top 5 for Joe Gibbs Racing.
Which is probably the first time in all season that's happened.
I would have to say.
We talked about this a few weeks ago. Who's going to be the teams that are going to catch Joe Gibbs Racing? They're not going to be able to maintain all season what they have been doing for the first third of the year. The question now becomes as we go to Michigan, have the other teams caught up to Joe Gibbs Racing, or did they just struggle at Pocono? The lack of practice over the weekend could have had a factor in that. I don't know. Obviously, we'll see this weekend coming up at Michigan International Speedway, but we talked about it. Who's going to catch them? Have they fallen off? I don't know yet.
We don't know, and obviously a new rules package this week will be run for the first time at Michigan. It won't likely be run moving forward. Could potentially be a rules package for next year, but that will be run this weekend at Michigan. We'll see who can hit on that early on in this first practice coming up at 11. Also on the show today, Xfinity driver of the Lilly Diabetes Ford for Roush-Fenway Racing, Ryan Reed, joins us. He plays fantasy racing. We're going to talk to him about Michigan and some other storylines regarding fantasy racing. Plus, our teams and our winners. You're tuned in to Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show, presented by Hercules Tires.
Tyler and Robbie will be right back to talk more fantasy racing here on the Inside Line.
Live sports are the one true reality entertainment, where a single dramatic moment can become timeless. In NASCAR, Motor Racing Network's live broadcast elevates your senses to the sights, sounds, and struggles taking place on the racetrack.
One final lap in the Daytona 500. Joey Logano has the point. Junior crosses over.
The power of radio to the imagination of the listener. Tune in to the Motor Racing Network. Visit MRN.com for an affiliate list in your local area.
Being there matters, and your United States Navy protects and defends America on the world's oceans. Around the globe, around the clock, Navy ships, submarines, aircraft, and, most importantly, tens of thousands of America's finest young men and women are ready to defend America when piracy threatens global commerce, when disaster strikes, or when called upon by the Commander-in-Chief. Your Navy is there. When it comes to protecting and defending America, being there matters, and America's Navy is already there.
Looking for winged sprint car coverage? MRN has you covered with Winged Nation. Tuesdays at noon Eastern, it's Winged Nation presented by Hercules Tire on MRN.com. Thursdays, check out the Winged Nation Weekend Preview podcast presented by Hefner Racing Products. Then on Saturdays at 9:30 a.m. and 12:30 p.m. Eastern, watch Winged Nation presented by Sage Fruit on BAV TV. MRN's Winged Nation, your source for all things winged sprint cars. Let's talk more fantasy racing on The Inside Line. Here's Robbie and Tyler.
Coming up in about a half an hour, we'll get our first look at the new rules package at Michigan with cars on track at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. There, you will get a sense of who will be good on your fantasy team this week. I would expect that there's going to be longer runs in that practice because you're going to want to get as many laps in as you can get in that first practice session. So that could potentially be, guys who would be, good on your fantasy team. So, Robbie, this week heading to Michigan for the Firekeepers Casino 400 on Sunday, who is your number one fantasy guy in this week's pool, I guess, if you will?
Before we get started, you just mentioned the initial practice session today, making long runs. You still want to qualify well at Michigan.
You do.
Three of the last 5 races at Michigan have been won by the driver starting in position number 1. I'm going to lead off my team this week with Kevin Harvick, 27.75 this week. Before finishing 29th in this race last year, and remember, he was up front, but pit strategy about the halfway point of the race, the rains came along and finally wiped everything out. He was running in the top 5. He may have been leading before that happened. But that stopped a stretch of 4 straight second-place finishes. He went back to Michigan in August last year with another rules package, and he finished second in that race as well. So I like Kevin Harvick this weekend. 30 starts, 1 win, 13 top 10 finishes, and his 10-race average is a 10.1, which is second best. So I like the 4 car at Michigan this weekend.
Yeah, at least like him to get you potentially a second-place finish. I mean, you mentioned
I'll take that.
5 of the last 6 races he's finished second at Michigan. He also won in 2010 at the Irish Hills, but that's his only win. I still think Harvick has a great shot to make it number 2 this weekend. And one of the things I look at last week, so I will say that Harvick is on my team right now as well. The guys who I thought, last week going into the race were going to be good really didn't shine all that much. I mean, you looked at Martin Truex Jr. He struggled. I think he was faster than where he finished. But he and Matt DiBenedetto ran into each other on pit road. They were not that great in practice. They had a decent car for race time, but they got damaged from, that stop. But I will say this. I think Harvick and both Truex will be fast this weekend, so I'm going to put Martin Truex Jr. on my team as well. Truex had 2 podium finishes last week at Michigan, last year. He finished 3rd in both races, and those were complete with 2 different rules packages. You remember we had the one that they were running all year long, and then, of course, they tried the high drag package. Truex finished, 3rd and 3rd in both of those races. We're going this year with a new rules package, so Truex, I think, will adjust, and I think Truex will be good this weekend as well. So Harvick and Truex will lead off my team.
Okay, I'm differing from your second driver there. I'm going Dale Earnhardt Jr. this weekend, and we talked about this before we went on air. Why am I picking Dale Earnhardt Jr. this weekend? For a couple of reasons. Number one, he's won at Michigan twice in 2008 and 2012. At Michigan, he does have 4 straight top 10 finishes, so that's one of the reasons why I like him this weekend. I think last week they finally got off of – it was a brutal month of May for the 88 team. 2 DNFs in the month of May. They're back. He's got a lot of momentum right now heading into the summer stretch, so I like Dale Jr. at Michigan this weekend, even with the new rules package.
I will say I do like the horsepower that's under the hood of Hendrick Motorsports this weekend. And especially you saw it last week at Pocono. Chase Elliott was good. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was good. Even Casey Kane was good, and he struggled all year long. So I will say I do like that. However, one of the things that Dale Earnhardt Jr. has made a living off of is, taking downforce. Lower downforce he hasn't been that great with. You go to Daytona, you don't have low downforce. You're sucked up to the back of a car. You have aero. He's made a living off of aero, and I think that he's going to struggle just a bit with the low downforce package. However, Michigan is a good racetrack for him. You mentioned that already, and he snapped win streaks. I think Junior might struggle with this low downforce package this weekend. So, you can take Robbie's advice with a grain of salt. He has been good there, But Junior would not be on my fantasy team this week. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
But I do like Chase Elliott.
I happen to have Chase Elliott.
I do like Chase Elliott.
He's up $5.50 from when I first picked him up this year,
right.
which it's another.
He was good last week.
He was good last week. Another race, another impressive finish for young Chase Elliott. 51 laps led at Pocono, which was a race high. And he, in Michigan, 2 Xfinity Series starts, 2 top 10 finishes. He's up to 7th in points. So I really like what Chase Elliott's doing right now.
One of the guys who I have on my team that I'm kind of happy about, and that's Brad Keselowski. Keselowski, to me, had the best car last weekend at Pocono. I know he had the problem on pit road, or his team had the problem where they ran into the side of the car and they tried to get downforce and got penalized by NASCAR. Well, they were almost a lap down. They came back from that, finished second, potentially could have won that race. They were chasing down Kurt Busch. They passed Junior. Brad Keselowski right now, and I like him with the low downforce package as well. Last year we went to Kentucky and Darlington with a new lower downforce package. Well, this package this week has more off of it. But Brad Keselowski was good in both of those races when they changed the rules. Of course, he qualified on the pole at Darlington, almost won that race. He was good at Kentucky as well. Brad Keselowski will be good this week. And it's rare that he finishes anywhere outside the top 10 at Michigan. In the last 10 races, he only has done that 4 times, 2 of them 12th place finishes, so nearly top 10 finishes. So Brad has, he's going to be a car that'll potentially win this race this weekend. I actually like both Team Penske cars, but Brad Keselowski is going to be on my team this weekend.
We saw in the All-Star race, we kind of ran a lower preview of the package we're going to run this weekend, and they finished 1-2 in that race. So I could see Brad getting up front. The problem with Team Penske this year is every time I picked them, they have struggled. I'm going Kyle Larson again this week. I thought he would do better than 11th last week at Pocono, but I'm going to keep him on my team one more week, and I'll round things out this week again with Chris Buescher at $5.
Larson is our one-on-one this week with Kim Kuhn in our NASCAR Live pre-race show, so tune into that Sunday morning. A.J. Allmendinger is going to stay on my team from last week, started 32nd, finished 16th in the last 12 races. In the last 12 races this year, he's finished in the top 25. I know that doesn't sound awesome, but for that team to finish consistently is good. He has 2 16th place finishes in a row. I just think AJ is good for the money right now. And then, of course, I'll ride out with my team with Chris Buescher. So Truex, Harvick, Brad Keselowski, AJ Allmendinger, and Chris Buescher. That's my top 5. Robbie Mays, who do you have?
Harvick, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, and Chris Buescher.
Those are our teams. Roush-Fenway Racing's Ryan Reed joins us next on the Inside Line.
We'll be right back in just a moment to talk more fantasy racing with Tyler and Robbie here on the Inside Line.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
When the smoke settles, the entertainment never stops.
I feel like experience kind of outweighs youth.
On race weekends, your favorite NASCAR personality is an everyday superhero.
Kyle Busch driving for his life right now.
But when they leave the racetrack, they're just like everyone else.
Our lives are so much different than what people may think they are.
I'm Susie Armstrong. Join me on a daily journey as we discuss the hot topics and engaging personalities of NASCAR Nation. Ned Jarrett's World of Racing, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network.
NASCAR K&N Pro Series East opened up, and it was Todd Gilliland picking up the race win.
This is NASCAR Coast to Coast.
How do you keep it all in perspective? You're a 15-year-old. You got to be able to enjoy things at the age of 15 other than racing.
Yes, my mom makes sure that I keep my grades up. It makes it a lot less stressful to miss school because you can just do it online and then hand it in next day at school. Teachers still don't like me very much because I still have to miss quite a bit of school. They understand it, and they've got my back.
NASCAR Coast to Coast every Wednesday at noon at MRN.com. We now return to the Inside Line with Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett.
If you didn't know this already, Robbie and I and some people around the office play NASCAR Fantasy Live on NASCAR.com. We have a league. Over 1,000 people have already joined that league, and if you haven't, you should. Search MRN Inside Line or follow the link below. Robbie Mays, did you do well last week in fantasy?
I was in the 150s last week.
Yeah, that's a lot better than me.
Yeah,
I
I
guarantee that.
was pretty happy with it.
You notice the studio got a little better looking after the last break. That's because Ryan Reed, driver of the Lilly Diabetes Ford Mustang in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, has joined us. Ryan, how are you this morning?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate coming hang out with you guys.
We appreciate when you stop by and join us. It makes the show, a little bit better because it's not just two fat guys talking about fantasy.
Hey,
all
there's
the
nothing
time.
wrong with that, man. Best sports shows are that.
That's right. Ryan will be racing in the Menards 250 presented by Valvoline Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can hear that on MRN.com. Ryan, why do drivers enjoy going to Michigan?
Well, it's fast. I think that's probably the biggest reason. It's probably the fastest place we go. It's a place where I think you either have a lot of fun or you have a really bad time. It's a tough place if your car isn't handling well, but if it is, then it's a lot of fun, and you can move around. I think you've seen it with all these tracks that have a lot of grip. They're starting to widen out more and more. Kansas is a perfect example. That place used to be one groove, and if you got out of the groove, you were in trouble, and now you see people on the white line all the way up by the fence. So I'm really hoping Michigan continues to widen out. I know I like it when we can run up by the fence, so I'm looking forward to it. We usually have fast Fords there. Jack puts a huge emphasis on Michigan, obviously, being up there near Ford headquarters, and Jack being based out of Michigan up there in Livonia, which there's also a lot of cool stuff. We do a meet and greet autograph session, Jack's Museum up there in Livonia, and it's really cool just as a fan to go up there and see all the cars and the wind banners, and kind of reminds you of the history Jack has in the sport.
Michigan is a 2-mile D-shaped oval. It's repaved 2012, I think. We run another 2-mile D-shaped oval in the Xfinity Series and the Sprint Cup Series at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. I know Fontana's surface is worn out. It's really old. Are there any similarities between the two tracks?
I mean, other than, there's so much speed at both of them. But I think setup-wise, it's quite a bit different because there's so much more grip in Michigan. So it changes it a lot. Changes the way you drive it. Michigan, you're going to be will be wide open in the Xfinity Series. You're not even close to wide open at Fontana. So I think it's quite a bit different. I think before they repaved Michigan, it was there's a lot more similarities, and that was before my time. But just talking to the guys, I think it used to be pretty close, and now a lot of differences. So Michigan's so fast. You really got to, when you strap in there for practice, you got to be ready to go because if the guys have the car handling good off the truck, you're gonna be wide open lap one.
You already mentioned about Roush. The emphasis on this racetrack. Well, it has been Roush's playground for a long time. I mean, they've had some good wins there. Greg Biffle has been solid there. Carl when he was there. Kurt when he was there. I mean, Kenseth had some big wins at Michigan. Do they put extra emphasis on Michigan? And also, is there a bit of a chip on your guys' shoulder going to that racetrack?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a chip on our shoulder every racetrack we go to, especially in the 16 team from, our point of view. We've been bringing better race cars to the track, Roush-Fenway as a whole. And I think across the board, if people are paying attention to Roush-Fenway, we've had some pretty stellar luck here lately. So a lot of things that are pretty crazy to go wrong have gone wrong. A lot of things just really haven't gone our way. So we're taking responsibility for that, and we're doing everything we can. So definitely a chip on our shoulder. We know this is a place where we can go there and capitalize. We've brought good race cars there for a long time. Even when Roush-Fenway's been at their worst, still Michigan's been one of their better racetracks. So I think you'll see us go there, both on the Xfinity and the Cup side, and have strong race cars. With our luck right now, we're not really sure how the race is going to play out, but definitely we are going there with heads held high, a lot of confidence, and we feel like we can go there and compete for good, solid runs. And if everything goes right, Michigan also too. I think you see a lot of fuel mileage racing going on there, so that's going to be huge. I think. They're showing a replay yesterday, or maybe I saw it on Twitter or Instagram, of the Cup race a few years ago where Mark Martin won, and there was like 3 or 4 guys that ran out of gas. So, that just tells you how much of a fuel mileage it can be, and it'll be maybe similar to Pocono last weekend.
When your crew chief comes over the radio and says, "We need you to conserve fuel," what goes through your mind when he said? Because I know you want to go as fast as you can, but you got to save fuel at the end of the race. What do you think about that?
I think sometimes it's easier than other times. If you're out there by yourself, you have a few second gap out front and out back. it's a lot easier. But when you have either guys racing right behind you or you're trying to catch a guy in front of you, it can be really tough, So the best is when he's like, all right, save fuel, but don't lose too much speed. It's like, all right, man, come on, let's try and be a little more descriptive than that.
Yeah.
So I think it can definitely be tough. But if you're gonna run out of fuel, it depends too. Obviously with the chase format, if you're saving fuel to go run, try and steal a top 5. That's different if you're going for a win, because if you're going for a win, then obviously that gets you locked into the chase. There's a lot of benefits to that. So you just kind of got to play by ear, know where you're at in the points and stuff like that. So, but I mean, wins are everything now in our sport. So, if you have an opportunity to go out for a win, then you as a driver, you're going to do everything you can. And I think you saw Kurt Busch do just a completely stellar job of that last weekend. Can't be done any better than that. And he talks about pushing in the clutch and saving in the corners, and he was still pulling away from second place.
Yeah,
so,
he was.
I think as drivers, that kind of sets the bar of how how to save fuel and also go fast. Like the crew chief says, save fuel and go fast. Well, he showed how it's done there. So I think you can get it done. You can do a lot as a driver, and so just one of those things as a driver that continues to get more important is how to save fuel and how to be good at it. And we'll see. I think Michigan's gonna be a good test of that.
You mentioned Kurt Busch. Let's talk a little fantasy. One of the cool things about having Xfinity drivers in here is A, they most likely watch the race, the Cup race, and B, they might play a little DraftKings or fantasy. You play DraftKings, right?
I do play DraftKings. Yeah.
How'd you do last week?
It was a tough race, man. Had Martin Truex. He was coming off of he's obviously really good at Pocono, came off a strong run at Charlotte. He's been good all year. And so that didn't play well for me. And then I had I think I had Harvick, and then I had I think Ricky, one of the Roush cars. I can't remember everybody, but it was not a good day for me. It was a really, really tough race to call. So just a lot of crazy stuff happened. It was a lot of fun to watch. I did not have Chase Elliott. That would have been a great one. And I didn't have Kurt Busch. So there you go. Those were two of the guys that I think if you had those guys, it definitely helped your performance quite a bit.
Who do you like this weekend then?
Honestly, I talked about the Roush cars. I think they could be a great underdog. I think you can steal one of them for pretty cheap. And then, I think that honestly think Harvick's going to have a really strong run this weekend. Yep. Gibbs cars have been good all year long. And Martin's been one of my go-to for fantasy all year, and I think I'm going to continue with that. I think he'll rebound really strong after last weekend. I think he had a fast car and just didn't get to show it. So. Yeah. The Gibbs stuff's so strong right now on both Xfinity and Cup side, so I think that it's hard to go wrong with any of those guys.
We talked in the last segment about the Gibbs cars, and they had none of them finish in the top 5 at Pocono last week. Are we seeing teams now starting to catch those guys a little bit as far as performance goes?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think the Xfinity stuff, there's still some work to do to close the gap, but the Cup side, you've really seen it close up. So I don't think that they're at all off on speed, but I think the gap is closed. So Matt Kenseth was still looking really, really strong there. And so I think Matt is going to be a guy that's going to be really tough to beat this weekend. He's so strong at Michigan, and they've been continuing to show they have speed.
Definitely. We'll get Ryan Reed's winner next here on the Inside Line. We also have our winners heading into the Michigan weekend right here on the Inside Line presented by Hercules Tires.
The Inside Line will return in just a moment.
Race fans, there's nothing like the power, excitement, and sounds of NASCAR. Ever wonder what it would be like to strap yourself in the seat of an authentic NASCAR race car? You can do it at the Richard Petty Driving Experience. Ride along or drive yourself at one of 15 tracks nationwide. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit online at drivepetty.com. Richard Petty Driving Experience. It's authentic NASCAR entertainment. Call 1-800-237-3889 or visit drivepetty.com to reserve your experience.
Are you ready?
To help children forget about their serious medical conditions so they can just be a kid. Yeah! Then support Victory Junction, which is the dream of late race driver Adam Petty, who wanted to build a camp where children concentrate on fun and laughter, not illness or disability. At Victory Junction, kids enjoy ziplining, horseback riding, swimming, fishing, all in a medically safe environment, all at no cost to the camper. What do you say, Richard Petty?
Let's do this.
Learn more at victoryjunction.org.
Looking for a great spot for an affordable beach vacation or the perfect romantic retreat? Let the Plaza Resort and Spa help. A vacation on the world's most famous beach is sure to help you reconnect with the ones you love. Discover the grand tradition of hospitality and service on Daytona Beach. The Plaza Resort and Spa is the perfect choice for any type of getaway. Book online at plazaresortandspa.com or call 1-855-DB-PLAZA. That's 1-855-327-5292.
Now it's back to Robbie Mays and Tyler Burnett on the Inside Line.
Again, first practice for the Cup cars coming up at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Ryan will be practicing at 12:30 for the Xfinity Series with their first practice. And then, of course, Sprint Cup Series qualifying at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can hear that on the MotorRacingNetwork.com today. Moving forward, Robbie, let's talk our winners. We have Ryan Reed still joining us, Lilly Diabetes Ford Mustang for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. First, Ryan, we'll let you make your winner first. I know it's going to be different than ours, but you mentioned this guy a little bit in the last segment. Who's your winner this week at Michigan?
I think Matt Kenseth is going to get it done. I know we were talking about it, but I was thinking about it some more. Or Dale Jr. Obviously coming off a strong run.
He's giving me crap because I gave him crap about Jr. earlier.
Came off a strong run at Pocono, and I think we've all seen how good he is at Michigan. He's really hungry right now. So follow him on Twitter, and you hear him talking about it quite a bit. Super hungry right now. So I think one of those two.
All right, Dale Jr., Matt Kenseth. I like the Matt Kenseth pick.
But you don't like the Dale Jr.
No,
pick.
I do. I think he could potentially, Robbie was mentioning that he snapped a winless streak the last 2 times he won at Michigan. So it is a track that he could win at. I'm not sure about the low downforce rules with Jr. I mean, it might not be all that different. We don't know, but Jr. might have a struggle with that. Who's your winner this week, Robbie?
My winner this week is Kevin Harvick.
Right.
Second in 5 of the last 6 races at Michigan International Speedway. Hasn't won since Phoenix back in March. His teammate won last week. He should have won this race last year. I think he's hungry for win number 2
He should have won this race.
Don't quote me to me.
He should have won the last 6.
He should have won a bunch of races this year. So I like Kevin Harvick this weekend at Michigan.
Wow. Joey Logano is my winner this weekend. He won at Michigan in 2013. But Logano, other than a couple other guys, he's had 6 straight top 10s at Michigan. I think that Team Penske had 2 of the best cars last week at Pocono. And Brad Keselowski, of course, showing that when he nearly went a lap down. And then, of course, finished second in the race, nearly won that race as well. Almost caught Kurt, but you said he was pulling away after his fuel mileage. But Joey Logano, I think he qualifies well. He'll most likely qualify up front. I don't know how many pulls he has this year, but he has a lot, and he had a lot of pulls last year. I think Joey Logano. What do you think of that one?
I think it's a great pick. I'll be waiting to do my DraftKings, set my lineup after practice. I think the downforce package this weekend is going to change a lot. So I think, like you mentioned, I hadn't even thought about it, changing some stuff for Junior there. It's going to change a lot of stuff for everybody. So honestly, I mean, hopefully, I know the guys at Roush-fenway, I'm getting ready to go talk to those guys here in just a minute. But, that's going to be, you never know. I mean, it can really shuffle the deck there, and so hopefully those guys have done a good job, and hopefully we can see a Roush-Fenway Ford. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks for joining us. We love having you on the show, and good luck this weekend. Go get them in the race on Saturday.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, Ryan Reed, everyone. We're getting ready to wrap things up. Robbie, you got final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to Michigan this weekend. I love the racetrack. I love the area. The folks up there do a fantastic job accommodating the race fans. So Roger Curtis and all those guys up there, they do a great job. And if you've never been to Michigan, it's a cool place to go and can make a great vacation out of it.
I mentioned 11 a.m. practices coming up here on MRN.com, qualifying at 4. Another practice on Saturday at 9 a.m. And then, of course, we have the Xfinity race at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. Sunday, the Firekeepers Casino 400. But don't forget about the trucks. They're racing at Texas on Friday night. So hopefully you enjoy all the racing action. Thanks for listening this week on the Inside Line Fantasy Racing Show. We'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to The Inside Line, presented by Hercules Tires. Stream us every Friday on MotorRacingNetwork.com or on the MRN app. The Inside Line is also available on demand at the MRN.com Media Center, or download it through iTunes or Stitcher. The Inside Line is a production of the Motor Racing Network.